Chapter 4. The Bedrooms. On a hill, the two men can see a big, old house.
Is it Stoke Moran?
Asks Watson. The driver of the trap answers him.
Yes, sir. That's Stoke Moran, the house of Dr. Grimsby Roylott.
We can walk from here,
Holmes says, and he gets down from the trap. A minute later, the two men meet Helen Stoner coming from the house. She is happy to see them, but when she learns about Roylott's visit, her face changes.
My stepfather knows about my visit to you. Oh, no.
She cries.
Don't be afraid.
Holmes says.
We are going to help you. From now, you must be very careful. And you must lock your door at all times. Now, take us to the house.
They arrive at the big house. Holmes looks carefully at the windows to the bedrooms on the ground floor. He looks at Helen's bedroom and the latest work there.
Is this work on your bedroom important?
He asks Helen.
No, it isn't.
Helen answers.
I don't understand it.
Let's look at the bars on your window,
says Holmes. He takes out his knife.
Perhaps I can open them.
He puts his knife to the bars, but they don't move.
No, I can't open them. Nobody can get in through here.
Next, Holmes goes into Julia's bedroom. He looks slowly at everything. It is a little room without much furniture. Over the bed, there is a long bell rope.
Which room can you call with the bell rope?
Holmes asks Helen.
It looks newer than the other things.
I don't know,
says Helen.
I never need it.
Holmes takes the bell rope in his hand and pulls it. Nothing happens.
This bell rope doesn't go anywhere,
Holmes says excitedly.
Now that's interesting. Look, it begins here, just over the small opening of the ventilator.
What a strange thing.
Helen cries.
Yes,
Holmes says. He looks carefully at the ventilator.
This is also new, and it goes through to the next room. Why?
Holmes, Watson and Helen go into Dr. Roylott's room. It is bigger than Julia's room, with more furniture and a big metal safe. Holmes pulls the door of the safe, but it doesn't open.
What's in here?
Holmes asks.
My stepfather's papers.
Helen answers. Holmes smiles.
Is there perhaps a cat in there too?
Of course not.
Helen answers.
Why do you ask?
I ask because there's some milk on the safe.
Holmes says.
No, we don't have a cat. We have a cheetah and a baboon, of course.
Holmes says.
That's very little milk for a cheetah. Oh, what's this?
He walks to the bed. On it, there is a long dog lead.
What do you think of that, Watson?
Holmes asks.
Well,
Watson says.
it isn't an unusual dog lead. But why is it in a loop like that?
Holmes's face is dark.
Let's go out into the garden,
He says.
I must think.
Holmes walks up and down the garden for some minutes. Finally, he looks at Helen and he says,
You must listen carefully. Your life is in my hands.
Yes, Mr. Holmes.
Your stepfather is coming home soon. Go to your room. Watson and I are going to the village inn over there. When Roylott goes to bed, light a lamp and put it in your window. We can see it from the inn. You must then go back to your old room. Watson and I are going to stay in Julia's room tonight.
You know more about Julia's death than you are saying, I think.
Helen says sadly.
Can't you tell me anything?
No, I need to see more.
Holmes says.
But I hope to know everything very soon. Now, let's move quickly. We haven't much time.
Chapter 5. Danger. Holmes and Watson go to the inn and wait. Soon they see Dr. Roylott driving towards the house in his trap. The big man goes into the house and closes the door behind him. Holmes speaks quietly to his friend.
Do you want to come with me tonight, Watson? You can say no. There is danger in that house.
Watson smiles.
I'm not afraid, Holmes. I want to help.
Thank you, my friend.
Holmes waits for a minute, and then he says,
You know, that ventilator is not a surprise to me.
Why?
Watson asks.
Do you remember Helen's words about her sister? Julia can smell the incense from her room, and she doesn't like it. The smoke from the incense must go through a ventilator from one room to the next.
That's very good, Holmes.
And there's one more thing, Watson.
What's that, Holmes?
There is something strange about Julia's bed. Nobody can move it. It is always in that position. So the bell rope and the ventilator are always in the same position over the bed, too.
I'm beginning to understand now.
Watson cries.
We are talking here about a terrible crime.
Yes, and we are going to see terrible things tonight, I think. Let's sit and talk about happier times for a few hours.
The two men wait. At 11 o'clock, they finally see a light in the window of Julia's room.
That's Helen's lamp.
Holmes says.
Let's go.
Holmes and Watson leave the inn and walk out into the night. They go quickly across the garden towards the house. Suddenly, they see something strange running through the trees.
What's that? A child?
Watson asks, afraid. Holmes laughs quietly.
No, it's a baboon.
He answers.
What a strange family.
The two men take off their shoes and go into Julia's bedroom. Holmes moves the lamp onto the table and looks around the room. He puts his mouth near to Watson's head and he says quietly,
We must sit without light. Roylott can see it through the ventilator. Do not sleep and have your pistol near.
Holmes sits on the bed. Near him there is a cane and some matches. He puts out the lamp and finally the room is dark.